Hello, my name's Nathan Loynes and I'd like to introduce you to this module, The Politics of Change. In this module we'll be looking at how the government and politics have had a continuing influence in education since 1945 up until the present day. However, clearly education just didn't begin in 1945, but ideas and principles have been put in place over a much longer period of time, perhaps stemming way back till the 1870s. However, we won't dwell much on this pre-Second World War period, but we'll just have a brief overview in order to give us some context. The course shares many similarities with the other module that you'll be studying, the historical development of education, although in that module the subject area is much wider and covers a longer period of time. There is much debate and disagreement as to whether politics should exert control or influence on education. And some of you may be related to teachers who have made remarks similar to, "I wish the government would stop interfering and let us get on with teaching children." However, nevertheless, government and politicians continue to exert influence onto the field of education. There are many paradoxes or contradictions between what politicians say they are doing and actually the impact of the policy and legislation that they pass. And that makes the study of the influence of politics on education quite interesting, because on the one hand a politician is claiming one thing, but the influence is quite different. This is often seen with quite stark or critical effect in the mass media. Within the module, in the first semester, we'll be looking at how education has developed under political influence from the period 1945 up until the present day. In the second semester, we'll be looking at how the media and politics and education interact. How are politicians, when they're talking about education, represented in the media? Does the media have leanings towards certain political parties? Does the media influence your view? After all, when you think about politics, you might be thinking of dreary middle-aged men arguing about an inconsequential issue on late-night television which you really have no interest in. That is a media influence. Ultimately, the aim of the module is that you develop a more critical viewpoint of things that you read in the media and the claims made by politicians. And in doing so, you'll come to a better understanding of where your own political sympathies lie. What do we mean by political? Well, any act that a human being undertakes in a society involving other people is political. You influence or exert power on others, and other people influence or exert power on you. Indeed, the whole process of being at university for 3 years might be a political act on your own behalf, or you may be feeling forced into that experience by the political actions of others. Maybe something to think about. The two assignments are an essay in semester 1, where we'll look at the development of education from 1945 up until the present day. In semester 2, we'll complete a media review in which we subject the claims of politicians in the mass media to some critical scrutiny and see how what they are saying really matches up with the policy or the implications of what happens out there in schools. A political act such as the student demonstrations this year at the increase in tuition fees. Those are collective political actions. So, there you go. You might have thought that politics wasn't relevant to your current situation, but indeed it is. Finally, before the session, I'd like you to read the Ben article recently published in The Observer a couple of weeks ago, in that education is like a battlefield. What do we mean by that? Okay, Well, I look forward to meeting you in the first session. Thanks for listening.